People say that as a vegan, you have to eat a lot more food just to hit your caloric or protein goals. And while that is true, I didn't feel like eating that many meals today. So I had three simple meals, yet I still hit 163 grams of protein and 2600 calories. And I'm going to show you guys how. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Lakshay Naidu and I make videos about vegan health and fitness. Now, I've been trying to incorporate a lot more whole foods into my daily lifestyle and trying to make it work. And honestly, I was surprised today to see that I had already hit 163 grams of protein, even though my goal is minimum 140 to 150 grams of protein. It was nice to know that I could hit 163 grams of protein without even trying that hard, and most of my calories and protein coming from whole foods. Now, I'm going to show you guys everything that I ate from start to finish today to hit those goals. Now, my first meal is my usual go-to smoothie. Now, my blender broke, so I had to use the food grinder, but it still worked out fine. I started off with around 500 milliliters of water, added 2 teaspoons of chia seeds and 2 teaspoons of flax seeds, which I have combined into one to make it easier because I always use chia seeds and flax seeds together. So I just added in 4 teaspoons of that. I added in 1 serving of creatine powder. I use creatine monohydrate, and honestly, it doesn't matter when you take your creatine. I highly recommend taking creatine. If you're in a muscle building, if you want to build muscle, get stronger, if you're in a fitness in general, creatine is pretty much the only supplement that actually works. I see a noticeable difference when I'm on creatine versus when I'm not on creatine, and it is dirty cheap. I got this one for like $12 Australian dollars. You can get whichever one you want. It doesn't really matter. It's all the same. Get the cheapest one you can, but I highly recommend taking creatine at least once, 5 grams every single. And then I added in one banana, which was 134 grams, 1 serving of protein powder, and then I added in 20 grams of protein oats, which is just a blend of soy and almond protein, and then 1 tablespoon of peanut butter, which is my absolute favorite. Now, you don't have to, like, I'm really specific. I don't know, maybe it's just me, but it has to be 20 grams. Like, it can't be over or under 20 grams. Just for my own peace of mind, I like all my measurements to be exact. And I grinded this up and it actually tasted really nice. And I started using water instead of almond milk because I really don't like almond milk anymore. It's just water. It just tastes like water. If anything, I would use oat milk or even rice milk instead of almond milk. But apart from chocolate almond milk, which is my absolute favorite, I really don't like normal almond milk because it gives me no flavor whatsoever. When I'm drinking this, it doesn't even feel like I'm drinking 43 grams of protein. So now, since, like I said, I want to incorporate more whole foods into my diet, so instead of going out and buying tinned chickpeas, tinned kidney beans, it's so much cheaper to buy like a bulk bag of dry kidney beans, dry chickpeas from your local store, from your local Indian grocery store. That's where I got this from. This is a pressure cooker, but I'm not going to use the pressure cooker method. I'm just going to use the normal method. So pretty much what it is we're going to put it on the stove. We're going to bring it to boil. And once it starts to boil, we're going to lower the heat and just let it cook for about an hour and a half to 2 hours. I think I left this on for about 2 hours, 2 hours, 15 minutes. And as you can see, the chickpeas was done, but the kidney beans took a little bit longer to cook than the chickpeas. So once this was done, I just split it into 5 different containers. Now, the reason I'm splitting it into 5 different containers is because I measured out the chickpeas dry. So the chickpeas was 500 grams of chickpeas when I measured out dry. Before I soaked it, I measured out 500 grams of chickpeas. So if I split cooked chickpeas into 5 different containers, that means there's roughly 100 grams of dry chickpeas in each container. It's just easier for me to measure it in MyFitnessPal. I always recommend measuring it dry because if you measure it cooked, there's too many fluctuations. Like if you let it cook for longer, it absorbs more water, so it's going to be heavier. But dry, it's more likely to be the same weight. So I always measure everything dry. Not everything, but chickpeas, kidney beans, I like measuring it dry. So there's roughly 100 grams of chickpeas in all of these. And I'm not going to store these in these containers. I'm just using it to split it into five. And once it's cooled down, I'm just going to chuck each of it into a Glad wrap bag and put it in the freezer. So I can just whip it out whenever I want to use chickpeas. So just lightly sprayed a little bit of olive oil on this saucepan, and I'm going to add in 100 grams of chickpeas, so one of the containers in there. So what we're doing is we're pretty much going to toast this up, and we're going to spice this up to use in a sandwich later. I use 1 teaspoon of cumin seeds, around half a teaspoon of red chili powder, and half a teaspoon of salt, and 1 teaspoon of black salt, and just stir this through on low heat until it's all cooked up. And I cut up some tomatoes. I toasted up the soy and toasted bread, which I always use the soy and toasted bread, which is pretty much like multigrain bread, but it has more protein. Out of all the breads that I've seen, it has the most protein to carb ratio because most protein breads that you find in stores tastes like cardboard. Now, I'm not even joking. Most protein breads, it doesn't even taste like bread. But this particular bread, it's amazing. It's my favorite, and it actually tastes like bread. And it doesn't have too many carbs or too much fat as well. So I'm going to make two of these sandwiches. I'm going to use half of the chickpeas in one of them. And honestly, it's just a balancing act. I added some mustard sauce, some sriracha chili, sriracha chili sauce. I used some chili sauce and put some lettuce on top for some crunchiness. And I made two of these, but I pretty much ate the first one as soon as I made it. So 46 grams of protein, 123 grams of carbs, 123, and 26 grams of fat, which is a decent lunch. I think I had this at lunchtime. And as you can see, it doesn't even look that big. And it was filling. It was really filling because the chickpeas, it's really high in volume. Um, it was a really simple meal to make. As you saw, it didn't take that long. And it's one of the fastest way of making chickpeas taste good. You could also use an air fryer to make this. My air fryer, I need to get another one. But if I had my air fryer, I would have just used the air fryer to make this. I have made a video on air fried chickpeas, which I will link right now. You can go watch that video, but this is a good alternative if you don't have an air fryer. But make sure you don't use too much oil. So, my final meal, this is my third meal. We're going to be making a quick kidney bean and nut meat curry. Now, we're going to chop up the onions, chop up 2 medium onions. I love onions. I like using as much onions as I can in my food. Onions are my favorite. So I just added a little bit of water in a saucepan. I'm not going to use any oil for this meal because I've already used oil in my previous meal. I then added the onions in there and stirred it around. And then I added in 1 tablespoon of ginger garlic paste, which is staple for any kind of Indian meal. 1 teaspoon of cumin seeds, around 2 medium tomatoes chopped up. Now, I'm only going to be using one spice because I want to keep it simple. I don't want to use a bunch of different spices, spend more time. I just used 1 tablespoon of curry powder, which you can use if you want to whip up a quick curry. Curry powder is fine. Curry powder is essentially a mix of all different spices. If you're looking for a quick curry and you don't have much time, curry powder is the way to go. Instead of searching for each individual spice and using each individual spice, you can just use 1 tablespoon of curry powder. Add in 1 tablespoon of curry powder, around half a teaspoon of vegan chicken stock powder, 1 teaspoon of red chili powder, and 1 teaspoon of salt. I then added in the nut meat. So if you don't know what nut meat is, it's pretty much just peanuts and water mixed together to give it like a mince-like texture. It's literally just nuts. It's just peanuts. You can get it from any store, any grocery store in Australia. I don't know about overseas, America, Canada, but I am gonna make a video on how you can make your own nut meat at home. Stay tuned for that. And then I added in the kidney beans. So I did the same thing with the kidney beans. I just split the kidney beans once it was cooked. I split it into 5 different containers. Now, I only had 450 grams of kidney beans dry. So once I split it into 5, it was 90 grams. Now, I'm just going to put a lid on top and let it simmer on low heat for a while, for about 6-7 minutes. And then after 6-7 minutes, I open it up. Now I'm going to add in the vegetables. So I just added in a bunch of frozen vegetables because, as you know, I suck at trying to get in more vegetables, and I'm always trying to find ways of getting in as much vegetables as I can. If you have any tips on how I can get in more vegetables, please let me know in the comments down below. So I added in frozen vegetables, and we're going to cover this and let this simmer for a while. And once this is all cooked through, it's pretty much done. So I just measured out 2 cups, which is 370 grams. So make sure if you're ever measuring out rice, basmati rice, that you're using the right one. Because I've spoken to people, I've trained people before, and they've told me that they're eating a lot of carbs, and no matter how much carbs they eat, they're not putting on any muscle, they're not putting on any size. I've realized that they were measuring their rice, they were measuring it cooked, but they were logging it on MyFitnessPal as dry. So just keep that in mind. If you're looking to measure rice in MyFitnessPal, look for cooked rice, because most of the rices on MyFitnessPal, it has the measurements for raw, not cooked. So make sure specifically you look for the one that says cooked basmati rice. So as you can see, 65 grams of protein, 149 grams of carbs, and 14 grams of fat. I really like this meal. So this wasn't actually my final meal. I realized that when I looked at MyFitnessPal, I still had about 100 calories left. So I just had a tablespoon of peanut butter, which added in another 126 calories, which was perfect. I could eat peanut butter forever, but I had 1 tablespoon and I stopped. Once I had the tablespoon of peanut butter, I was done. So let's have a look at macros. I ended up hitting 163 grams of protein, 319 grams of carbs, and 75 grams of fat, which comes out to be 2,646 calories, which is perfect. Now, as you can see, we made we had 3 different meals, 3 simple meals. If you really want to count the peanut butter as a meal, it's not really a meal. All I had was a tablespoon. I just put a spoon in there, had a tablespoon of peanut butter, but 3 simple meals. And to be fair, even without the peanut butter, I still hit, I think it was 159 grams of protein. I really hope you guys learned something from this. If you have any questions, please let me know in the comments down below. I'll be doing a lot more full day of eating. I'm going to take you guys on my journey to cut and to get into the best shape of my life, of course, as a vegan. If you guys haven't already, please hit the subscribe button and like this video if you haven't. It'll really help my channel, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Thank you guys so much for watching this.